We are live, Locked on Auburn live edition, second Friday in a row that we've done this. I'm the host of Locked on Auburn, Zach Blackerby, joined by Auburn message board legend Charlie Five. We did this a week ago, thinking news was coming, and then every day for the past week we thought news would be coming, and then finally we got official word today, Friday, February 11th, that Auburn is keeping Bryan Harsin as their
Yes,
coach. We got quotes from Gouge, and we got a statement from Harsin, and that's where we're at with this right now.
absolutely. It's the Vince Carter over gift right now. We over. It's over. We can move on. We can rally the troops. We can do whatever we got to do to sort of move past this. What was the longest week, literally ever. Literally ever. We
Literally,
went from Zach. We went from like on Wednesday. We did like that emergency pod or whatever. And for Thursday, we went from being ridiculed that it could even be a possibility to, oh my God, this could be a possibility, to like every single day after that is going to be the day that it all drops, to we're back around to Friday. And
right.
finally we have some closure, and Harsin's going to be our coach for the foreseeable future. So the only thing we can do now is put everything behind us, rally the troops, and move forward.
Yeah, I think that's it. And the fan base still split on this. I think the fan base will be split on this for a long time. But I said in the midst of all of this that the best case scenario, I think it was when you were on the show, that the best case scenario was Harsin stays, and then he's kind of has a change of mindset about how he handled two big things: one, recruiting, and two, just messaging from the football program. And maybe those things will happen. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I think we'll get a good example of if it happens or not tomorrow, with Auburn basketball being, the set of game day. He's got a prime opportunity to get in front of a bunch of people and to kind of interact with the fan base. I think that'll be kind of the first sign of, okay, is this going to be different or not?
Absolutely. Real quick, Andy Ackerman, warm banana pudding. Warm. Cold is for terrorists.
Yeah.
All right. Moving forward. I think another thing we're going to see we could be able to see really quick if things are moving in the right direction. Hey, we got spring portal coming up, and we have quite a few roster spots coming up open. How do we close this class out? How do we finish this class out? No matter how you look at it, we have 16. We're adding 16 high school guys, like 5 or 6 portal guys. We got 4 or 5 open spots now. That's not saying that we may lose more players moving forward. We got 4 or 5 spots open that are very important. Hey, you're going to be ready to prove yourself, and prove it to everybody really quick within a couple of months after spring, or not even a month, when spring practices and whatnot wrap up. How do you finish the class out? How do you finish the class out and get this roster ready to compete for a SEC West title in 2022?
Yep. And also now it's like, I talked about this with Justin Ferguson. We recorded this morning's Locked on Auburn yesterday. And it's like, is Harsin looking for an OC right now? Like, what does that process even look like? But now you got to think he will have full reign of going out and getting an offensive coordinator, whether he promotes from within. A lot of people pointing to, is it going to be Keysal, the current wide receivers coach? Then maybe you can put somebody else in that role or whatever it may be. There's been a lot of speculation that he wants an OC that's kind of got the background of being a quarterback's coach as well. And so Keysal doesn't really have that. So, may go outside with it, but still, I guess that's the next storyline of this ridiculous offseason that we're in right now.
Heard the name Major Applewhite thrown around a lot today. So
I like that. I think that'd be great.
That solves 2 problems. That's your quarterback coach, and he's had play calling experience. So I'm not saying that's who it's going to be, but that is a name that's been thrown out there.
Right. Yeah. And so we'll see what happens there. And Joey, like many other folks, are very excited that Auburn is keeping Bryan Harsin. And I think the biggest thing is rallying the troops and the fan base and doing everything unified. I think we've seen the success that this Auburn fan base can have when everyone is unified. I mean, we're seeing it in basketball right now. Football is nowhere near that level of being unified, but maybe this is a step in the right direction. I don't know if this really unifies anything or if it just fires up the part of the fan base that wanted Harsin to stay. I'm not sure exactly if it accomplishes unity, but maybe it's a step that direction. What do you think about that?
The unity I see a lot of right now is from the recruiting class, the 2022 signing class, and uh, a lot of the vocal leaders, on the team. So the team and the recruiting class, incoming recruiting class, they seem to be galvanized and ready to go. As far as the fan base, I think it's just going to take a little while to shake out and see. I think it's probably split. I think a lot of guys wanted to see someone finally stand up to the quote unquote powers that be, and then some, were unhappy with some of the maybe on field production and off field production. So uh, like I said, the team and the recruiting class and whatnot seem very unified. The fan base, I think, is sort of still gonna be a wait and see type thing. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'm there with you. Yeah,
Love you, Anon.
seeing all the quotes from, I think
He
Coach
loves calling me by my name, actual name.
Yeah, I think it's a flex that he actually knows what your real name is.
Yeah,
Um, but I think the whole gist of like the recruits liking that Harsin's staying around is good because I think for the folks that were kind of ready to move on from Harsin, that was the biggest argument against them is is he going to be able to recruit? Is he going to be able to win in 2023 as far as getting guys to come in early and kind of get this program facing a different direction? So that to me is probably the most positive part of the day, in my opinion.
for sure. For sure. Definitely. And several of them spoke out. I think Micah Riley Ducker, who said Harsin's one of the only reasons he came to Auburn, and he's a big time tight end. That we've seen the production skyrocket in 1 year with that position. Jay Fair was another guy that came out very, very passionately. And I think the biggest one is to me, of current players, Derek Hall, who I think is probably the most um, like put together human on this football team, for him to come out and say basically thank God. In other words, what a relief to know that Harsin's still going to be our coach. That to me, it's hard. That carries so much weight. That carries so much weight because he just seems like, I know nothing about his background other than how hard he works, how
Right.
hard he's worked, and you never hear anything bad come from Derek Hall. He just seems like he's one of the like workout warrior, plays hard, high motor. So if that kind of guy is who could have gone to the NFL, maybe not have been a super high draft pick, but could have been a draft pick this year, just based off his freakish measurables, him come back and be fired up for Harsin, that has to carry weight,
Yep.
even to the most ardent pessimists against Harsin. That has to carry weight with you.
Yep. Um, Joseph saying fans weren't divided. It was a journalist. That is incorrect. There are plenty of fans that
That was way off in my
yeah,
opinion.
that's awful.
Love you though. Thanks for
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'd love your thoughts more on that if you want. Nick asking about the rumors of Zach leaving. I'm assuming he's talking about Zach Etheridge, the defensive backs coach. So correct me if I leave anything out here, but it sounds like the gist with Zach Etheridge is Georgia is interested in him being their defensive backs coach. And I think that's kind of all we know right now. Obviously, he's really impressed folks with how he approached, kind of being his first year in, the SEC last year. Roger McCreary was fantastic, as well as several other defensive backs for this Auburn team. And he recruited extremely well. And so the fact that defending national champs are interested in you, I don't blame Zach at all for listening.
Hard to pass up. I mean, he did get the title of recruiting coordinator or recruiting director or whatever of staff members, which I think it was one of the more positive moves that Harsin's done recruiting wise since he's been here, is naming him like the head of all of that, who will organize how we talk to who and when we talk to who and what and when and where. I think that's huge to have Zach in that role. Is that enough to keep him?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know.
Depends what his goal is. But I mean,
What
if,
is it?
if he
What is
wants
your
to
goal?
be,
Exactly.
does he
Exactly.
want to be a DC next in a few years? Because I think Georgia could probably offer him that path quicker.
Maybe, but think about this too. Georgia is a defense led by a defensive head coach. So how often do you go to how often do you feel like you see people question coaches that come out from under coaches from the same side of the ball as that the head coach focuses on? So I honestly, I may even see a quicker path to stay at Auburn because Harsin is going to rely so heavily on the defensive coordinator to be the defensive leader of the team. So with Zach, you're only one step away. Whereas if you go to Georgia, like who was Georgia's defensive backs coach last year? Do you know?
No, he joined Cristobal in Miami. That's all I know.
I don't really know who that was. So I mean, you go there and you're behind a whole bunch of rock stars, whereas you're the head dog here. I think it helps your resume. Personally, I think it would help his resume more to stay at Auburn, but I think him and Cadillac are going to be two ones to watch. Hopefully that those guys, we can, keep them here because they're definitely very important for the recruiting team moving forward.
Yeah. Folks asking about the Discord. I will put that link in there in just a moment. Charlie 5, I'm gonna let you answer this question from AU Tiger 97. If you would read it and then answer it.
How do we fix issues of no one showing up for junior day? General consensus in the state of Alabama is loaded this year. How do we get our haul for the class of 2023? All those are great. Those are great questions. And I honestly think the genesis of why you're asking those three questions are vastly more to do with why we went through what we just went through than the 6-7 record and everything else. So, I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. If you want to recruit well in 2023, you have to absolutely hit the road as many times as you possibly can, see as many coaches as you possibly can of these kids that you want. You have to constantly stay in touch. You have to constantly be reaching out and be at events that you have to be at to be successful as the Auburn head coach. Those things, and in the wording today, that when Harsin released his statement, I was really, really hoping for something to address those concerns. I was really, really hoping something. We didn't get that. That does not mean that that's not going to be addressed. That wasn't talked about. But if you want to be successful in the SEC, they're not going to come to you when you have guys like LSU, Alabama, Georgia in your conference. They're not going to come knock on the door. You have to go knock on their door.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go beat the bushes. You have to go build those relationships where a high school coach in Mobile will pick up the phone and say, hey, I got a kid at Williamson named Roger McCreary, who's a 2-star, who is a absolute, excuse my language, absolute badass. He is an SEC player. He didn't camp. He is going to be a star. You have to have those relationships.
Right.
And I'm not convinced. I'm not sure that we have those right now. So we have to go in, rebuild all of that, and then just be ready to go. Like we have to eat, sleep, drink recruiting at Auburn to be able to succeed.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. Hey, this live stream is brought to you by BetOnline. They have you covered with any sports. BetOnline.net remains the best spot for all your sports scores and news this season. It's not just for football with the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, but BetOnline has up-to-the-minute info on pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, and more. BetOnline.net, where the game starts.
I want to address a question I just saw pop up.
Of course,
this
go
is
ahead.
From Nick Amonte. The junior day issue was a scheduling issue, in my opinion. We planned on it being the day of the UK basketball game, but didn't realize that Bama was scheduled to have their junior day that same day. Guys, we had the number one basketball game. We should have been marketing this thing from December. Okay. We can't just like roll into having the most leverage we can possibly have to attract recruits on a junior day and and just fall back on, Alabama had their day the same day. Like that is not an excuse. That is not an excuse whatsoever. We had unbelievable basketball games for 3 weeks and we couldn't get our scheduling right. Okay, that to me, that's got to be fixed. That's got to be fixed. That's got to be marketed. There's got to be invitations. There got to be fireworks. There has to be everything to attract kids to come to those games. And I can't imagine a better attraction than Auburn versus Kentucky in basketball, where students were camped out for 24 hours in sub-freezing temperatures. There cannot be a better attraction than that.
Yeah, I mean, the sales pitch then is like, this is what they're doing for basketball. Just wait to see what they're going to do for you, kind of thing. Like once we start winning here in football again, like just wait till you see what's going on Saturdays in the fall. I mean, it's such an easy pitch to make, but
so easy. But
we'll see.
We're gonna get that figured out or not.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is, like, I don't think those opportunities are going away. Those opportunities will be back.
Correct. 100%
for the remainder of this season and then every season for the foreseeable future. So like that's a good thing. I think that's something that we can kind of look at. But man, just looking at this story though, and like when I was making the the thumbnail and the title of this live stream and all that, it's like it's so interesting that the news is that Auburn is keeping their head coach that they're under contract with. Like this is such a bizarre situation that we're in right now. The fact that this is news, you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. I was almost even like to the point where, do you have a press conference? I mean, do you have to release a statement to say you're not going to fire your coach? Like I was almost expecting to not even have a statement. I mean, that's the weirdest thing ever. We're going to have a statement to say we aren't going to fire our coach after 1 year. I'm with you. It's crazy that it got to that level.
Yeah. Yeah. And we got there though. We definitely got there, but yeah, with Gouge and Harsin making a statement, I think it's interesting. It came from Gouge and not Alan Green.
Yeah. Very.
I would have liked to heard from Alan Green, but I get it, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe there'll be a presser down the road, but Harsin had to do something, whether it was a statement or a presser or whatever it may be, because a lot of it fell under the vein of like, okay, where is he? Why is he not talking to the fans as much? And yada yada. It's like you had to hear from him at some point. And so we heard through a press release, which is something.
One comment that I found interesting from Gouge, and it was a ballsy comment, and I feel like your whole legacy will be built off this comment when he basically said the decision was not made by anybody but me. This was not a board of trustees decision. This was not an athletic director's decision. Nobody made this decision but me. So, and he's riding into the sunset after May 1st. It will have a new president. So I thought that was a very gutsy, that's an alpha comment right there. So he's ready to ride or die, and basically said, that's one thing we've asked for. Like, who do we look to place blame on for a situation like this? Because there's always this
power structure at Auburn's a big question, right?
He answered those questions. He answered that. There's nobody else to look to but me. And that may be by design because he's riding off and doesn't care after May 1st. But he basically said, there is nobody that makes this decision, makes this call, pulls the trigger but me, and I'm not pulling it. So good or bad, that to me is his legacy right there moving forward. And it could be incredibly, it could be huge, and it could backfire. So but props to him for putting the ball in his hands, so to speak.
Mike is asking, we talked about this a little bit a second ago, Mike, how soon do we learn who the OC and QB coach is? I bet we know fairly soon. I mean, look, this is a weird situation just by the nature of this happening in the middle of February, but you're kind of getting your game plan ready for how you want to approach spring practice at this point of the year. And you need your staff. You need the guy that's going to be over your offense to do all of that. But these guys are also doing that same job. The folks that you're going to be looking for to be your OC, they're doing that same job other places. And so you've got to then entice them to kind of leave what they're doing, and they probably feel super confident about the situation they're going in to do all that. And then you're telling them to come join you where there was a bunch of question marks. And so your pitch to bring them over may have to be a little bit different than what it would normally traditionally be. But I still think it'll happen quickly because he's had to have been thinking about this already, right? And I know he talked about his statement that like the past week has been crazy and yada, but he still had to be thinking about doing business, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Austin Davis resigned February 1st, I believe, and then it was these rumors, and his vacation was that next day. He left for vacation that next day and didn't come back for a week. So, and they're not going to authorize him anything, I would assume, salary wise and whatnot, that he could promise to anybody while this investigation or whatever is going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it probably put him a few days behind as far as, how you target somebody, how you go through the hiring process, the vetting process, knowing who, knowing who you want. And he's never really done anything that fast anyway so far. But I would imagine now that the line has been drawn and he is the coach moving forward. Tell us what you want, what you wish to have to pursue a guy for offensive coordinator. And I think we'll probably move on somebody pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, getting some discussion in the Discord about your comment regarding Goose shouldering the blame because he's able to like ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
That can be strategic. Like that's not a bad thing. I think some people may have taken that the wrong way. Like, I don't think that's a bad thing that he did that.
Yeah. I'm looking at this. I'm reading
C&D
it right now.
in the Discord, you seeing this?
Yeah, your comment about Good shouldering the blame is absolutely because he's wanting one last power grab before he rides into the sunset and doesn't have to face the consequences. I mean, maybe so, but it also could be him deciding that he's tired of the back and forth. He's tired of the dysfunction, and he said, "Look, guys, my last move before I get out of here is y'all need to learn to get on the same damn page. And until that happens, I'm gonna be the one making the calls, and I'm gonna go out in a blaze of glory."
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe it's a galvanizing move. Who knows? But I still think it was pretty ballsy and pretty sort of an alpha move, I guess, to just totally
I think we need that because I mean, all the reports that we've heard are there's so many people like offering things that they don't have the authority to offer and things that kind of go along with that. And so that needs to be defined, whether it's the new president coming in and he kind of sits everybody down and says, you can't do this. This is what I do. Or maybe actually let Alan Green do his job. I mean, that would be outstanding if they let Alan Green do his job. But that doesn't seem to be the case because so many people want to be involved in so many different things. And I think that is just one of those situations where, we call it all the time Jabba, just Auburn being Auburn. But I think that's a weakness in our structure. And that's something that needs to be fixed. And if that's the last thing Jay Goose does for this university is kind of give us a step towards that, I think that would be great.
Yeah, I'm with you 1,000%. We need it bad. We need to be united, and we need to know who is calling the shots for sure. We need to know that.
Don is asking, will the new president be that steadfast? All I've heard about this dude is he loves Auburn and he's very interested in athletics, but I don't know his personality enough to know exactly if he would be that steadfast.
He's big. Go ahead. The only thing I've heard, that's one of the little things that I've heard is this guy is huge Auburn sports guy. Big fan, Auburn sports. He understands the importance, how that increases enrollment desire. People out of state, especially out of state, people want to come where they're to schools that have good football teams, have good basketball teams. So, I'm not sure how important that was to Dr. Gooch, but I know it's a big deal for the new guy.
Right. So if you're Harsin now, what's the next thing you do? How do you move forward with all of this? You ignore it. You act like it didn't happen, and you just kind of power through. And you look back and say, "Hey, all that stuff was bogus. I survived it. Let's get to work." Or is there some maintenance stuff that you have to do?
I know what I would do if I was Harsin, but I don't know that you know, Bryan Harsin sort of runs to the beat of his own drum. I think the first thing he's going to do it's 3:22 Central Time. I think there's a team meeting at 3:45,
Right.
and there's about to be a absolute um like hardcore. We're in this together. We're going to put this behind us. We're going to be stronger we're going to work our butts off. We're going to prove everybody wrong. That there's going to be a team galvanizing move at 3:45 Central when they go to this team meeting with Bryan Harsin. From there, if I would have loved to have seen something as simple as this. And you don't even necessarily have to admit you were wrong. Recruiting in the Southeastern Conference is something that is absolutely a necessity, an everyday lifestyle. And we have spent a year doing it, and we understand where our weaknesses are and where our strengths are. And we are going to absolutely go as hard as we can to make our weaknesses strengths. And we're going to see every high school coach we can see. We're going to live on the road. We're going to eat, sleep, drink recruiting. And and we're going to absolutely dominate the portal. I mean, verbiage like that. And I think it turns everybody. And then obviously you got to have results after that, but at least before the results can come, you say stuff like that, and people that are especially in the SEC, when right now all your coaches are going to be using this as ammo against you,
Right.
You could go ahead and silence a lot of those voices real quick. Hey, this ain't over. We're not leaving. We're not planning on being out of here in November. We're going to be here to stay. And hey, coaches out there, hey, coaches, get ready. I'm fixing to blow your phone up. I'm fixing to be in your school. I'm fixing to be in your classrooms. Everybody's going to know my name moving forward. And they're not going to mispronounce my last. There's nobody that's going to be leaving a visit here mispronouncing my last name.
Right. We're going to be joined by Locked On SEC's Chris Gordy in just a second. But I've seen a few people ask this question. We'll use Stevens. Are you Locked On guys excited that Harsin will return? We've said this the whole time. And I think Charlie Five's comments just then kind of were a more in-depth version of this. But I think the best case scenario was when all this started, if Harsin looks at the past 14 months and said, okay, I need to adjust in two major ways: the messaging and recruiting. And I think you could argue that both of those things really overlap there. But that has been something that I think will happen moving forward. So sure, I think so. Hey, this live stream is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the planet. All their bars are covered 100% in real chocolate. 100% delicious real chocolate. But you look at the bars, they taste like a candy bar. They look like a candy bar. But they're low in calories. They're low in sugar. They're low in carbs. And they're high in protein. So be sure to check it out at built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at built.com. Let's bring in
a box of the peanut butter and chocolate on the way. Can't wait.
Did you use a promo code?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Sweet. I love that.
Yeah,
Chris Gordy's a big Built Bar guy. How you doing, man? Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC joining us.
Yeah, man. A surprising, kind of outcome here the last day or so. I mean, I would say not so surprising today, as we kind of heard that, this was going to be the resolution, that Bryan Harsin wasn't going anywhere. I think Cole Kublik kind of alluded to it earlier this morning. But, yeah, man, I mean, doesn't it feel like, guys, like we're delaying the inevitable, like barring a 10-2 season next year, like we're going to either be in the same boat next year or we're going to be hearing Bryan Harsin is gone a year from now?
I think it depends on what it looks like. I think you could go 8-4, but you improve on the things that you really kind of didn't figure out how to master in the first 14 months on the job, and I think you'd be okay.
I feel the same. I just
Yeah,
think
Auburn's not going 10-2 next year. I don't think. I just don't see that happening.
I just feel like 6 and 7 has little to do with a lot of what the angst is around the program. It's the being able to fill needs in recruiting, being able to execute the simple things that every other school does as far as junior days, visits days, be efficient on your messaging. Not a lot of missteps in Twitter and in your social media game that's out there. And then just being able to relate to high school coaches in Alabama and Georgia. I mean, you got to get out there and got to do it. And I've said if he goes on a absolute tear as far as coaching visits, high school visits, and we really we really go hard in this after spring, the second wave of portal guys. I think you could really start to turn a lot of things around as far as the direction goes. And then maybe the record is not that big of a deal moving forward if you're building the team correctly. But
Gordy, what do you think from a, sorry to cut you off, Charlie 5, as far from a conference perspective, how is the SEC viewed this past week as far as what all the craziness was happening at Auburn? And now that's like, okay, after all of this, nothing happened. Like, what's the conference view on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think most other SEC schools were kind of looking at this as a little bit of a joke from a standpoint of Auburn. Like, had you moved on from them at this point in the offseason, I don't know who you would have gotten. I mean, like, who's available? So, Chris Lowe put out a list of eligible candidates, and it was like, Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin. And it was like, man, like, is Lane Kiffin at this point in the offseason to come jump to Auburn? Like, it just seemed a little odd. But, yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this, Zach, in recent weeks. Like, in terms of optimism for your coaching situation, like the two new coaches, with LSU, with Brian Kelly, and, I mean, like the schools that made changes this offseason, you feel good about it. Florida feels pretty good. And then your other first-year head coaches, like Tennessee is high on the hog right now with Josh Heupel, and obviously with Shane Beamer's done at South Carolina. Like, all these other schools feel pretty good about their coaches heading into year 2 or year 1, except for Auburn. Like, Auburn's the one where it feels like, man, did we get the short end of this stick? And I was optimistic when they made the news or made headlines that they were hiring Bryan Harsin from Boise, and I thought, okay, this could work. But I also certainly have my reservations. Like, this could also not work. And so far, man, he has got to hit the ground running. I mean, especially with changing out coordinators 1 year in, losing your quarterback to the transfer portal, and say what you want about Bo Nix, it's not a great look. So, man, they have got to hit immediate success. Like, we got to come out of the spring game feeling really good and really positive about this team, or this thing could get ugly very quick in 2022.
Gordy, what do you think the strategy needs to be as far as getting an offensive coordinator? I think a lot of people kind of forgot at the fact that, like, oh, all this happened. Now Harsin has to go hire an offensive coordinator. It seems like he wants a guy that also can coach quarterbacks. And so that eliminates anyone on the roster if that's kind of the trend that he wants to keep. So, I mean, it's a weird time of year to hire an offensive coordinator. What do you think goes into that decision?
I don't know, man. I mean, I kind of liked the Austin Davis hire just from a standpoint of what Liam Cohen did this past year with Kentucky. I felt like it seemed in sync. It felt like that was going to be similar type deal. And obviously Austin Davis pulls the plug that quickly. So I don't know where they go, but man, it's got to be a guy who can work with these quarterbacks. It's got to be a guy that can hit the ground running with, whether it's TJ Finley, whether it's the Robbie Ashford, whether it's Demetrius Davis, Zach Calzada, whoever it is. We better feel pretty damn good coming out of the spring about where we are with the quarterback spot and where we are with the offense. Because, I mean, we know what the O-line, I mean, we have a pretty good idea what the O-line is going to be. We have a pretty good idea what the running back spot's going to be. But I think it all hinges on that quarterback spot, man. Like, how good do we feel about who the, presumptive starter is coming out of the spring? And obviously whoever the OC is, that's going to be a big part of this.
Right. Gordy, thanks for hopping on for a few minutes, man. That's a very colorful wall behind you. It looks like
at a theme park
place, wherever that is. So
yeah, thanks guys. This is this is where I live now. So.
Okay, love it.
Thanks,
hey, for
Chris.
folks tuning in, how can they check out Locked On SEC?
Yeah, LockedOnSEC.com is the easiest way to find it. Again, our interview with TJ Finley that just came out a week ago. Great conversation with him. I think you'll be very impressed with a kid who is 19, about to be 20, very mature. And, we talked to him right before the Austin Davis fire or, whatever, when he left.
That was. Yeah.
But really good interview with TJ Finley. If you guys missed that, check it out.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gordy. Really appreciate your time. Absolutely. Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. Yeah, good stuff there. Good stuff there. I don't think anything that surprised me. Just kind of confirmed, I think, what we were already saying.
For sure.
I've seen a few folks talk about the powers that be holding funds from Harsin.
Let me take a stab at that one really quick.
Please do.
First of all, we have to define what that means, what powers that be means. Are we talking about board of trustees? What are we talking about? The board of trustees by Alabama law cannot use their companies for NIL deals. So the most famous one you can think of is Jimmy Rain in Yellowwood. By Alabama law, there can be no NIL contribution whatsoever. So no, we're not having an issue with those guys withholding funds from NIL. As a matter of fact, there's numerous publications that talk about how powerful and how strong Auburn's NIL, I think it's NIL Auburn LLC is, and what they've been able to do. And you got the different values and whatnot, the different platforms and whatnot put out for what players can and should be earning. I don't think we have an issue with NIL at all. I would encourage everyone to go to the website, NIL Auburn LLC, search it on Google it, and look at their different membership packages, and we can all make an impact on it.
Right.
And if it's I think $250 a month is the lowest membership. If that's too much, get 4 friends and split it. Get on. I think that's really the
4 friends is a lot.
4 friends, is it a lot?
4 friends is a lot.
Well,
4 friends.
Get 4 friends. Y'all split it up. That we can do our part. Where we keep barking at the people that this boogeyman out there who's holding money away from Auburn. We keep barking at them, and we have a mechanism where we can control that. Where we don't need them anymore necessarily. So.
They're different pots, right? I mean, people talk about how the athletics department's not putting enough into NIL, and it's like that's not where. You can't do that. The university cannot pay the kids. That's not how that works. NIL companies can, and individual companies can. So when people are saying that, like, stop saying that, because that's not true. Auburn athletes are very well taken care of. I promise. Yes, they are extremely taken care of. All sports, all of the major sports are well taken care of. Had a conversation with NIL Auburn today. They're fine. They're going to be taken care of. That is not why folks are not coming to Auburn, because they will make a very good living while they're here.
Absolutely. It's not even remotely the reason.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some things that just have to be corrected, and we've addressed it ad nauseum for the last 7 days, the different things. So
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, cool. Folks, thanks for hanging out for about 40 minutes or so. When kind of an impromptu live, people in the Locked On Auburn Discord were like, are we going to get any kind of afternoon pod? And it felt weird. I really didn't feel like I needed to do one, but I'm glad that you hopped on with me, bud. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, dude. Always.
Cool. All right. This has been Locked On Auburn, a live edition. And please subscribe if you're not subscribing on YouTube. Join the Locked On Auburn Discord if you're not. And subscribe on Apple Podcasts or however you listen to podcasts. Would really appreciate it.